to Tennessee Democratic Congressman Steve Cohen on whether he feels slighted. Do you feel slighted, sir?
Not really. You know, I'm happy we have investment in Tennessee, but Chrysler's an old American name, and I'd like to see General Motors and Chrysler and Ford sell a lot of product.
All right, and I know you did vote for the bailout, Congressman, and you thought it would benefit everyone, but I guess I would have liked to see the president, any president, come to your fine state to back American auto workers, even those who work for foreign players. But I didn't see that.
I don't know why he was in Indiana, but those are auto workers too, and wherever he goes is fine. But General Motors is who I want to see succeed. I want an American automobile business to be successful, bring jobs to America. We need to invest in America, and we need to make the middle class a large part of our economic comeback so that they can spend the money necessary to get us out of this recession.
You know, Congressman, I've had a lot of these auto company executives on my Fox Business Network show, which, Congressman, if you don't get, you should demand. And one of the things that came through in a lot of my interviews was that some got a little ticked off that GM might have an advantage, that not only a favorable treatment from the government, but that it is the sort of preferred auto company, and that they're at a cost and a lot of other disadvantage. Do you buy that?
I don't have a problem with it. We've exported too many jobs overseas. We've outsourced. Every time I pick up the phone and I try to get a flight to Louisville and I get somebody from Indonesia that asks me which Louisville, I just want to throw up. I think when you get airplanes, you ought to call for reservations. You ought to get an American person that knows where Louisville, Kentucky is. And I think that if we help our industries here and create jobs in America, that's great. I'm all for it.
Then by consistency, then we should be just as gung-ho on Nissan coming out with a car like the Leaf that I guess is going to get a lot better mileage than the Chevy Volt, right?
Well, we ought to be getting great mileage with our American cars, but you know, the American executives...
No, you're getting better mileage. You're getting much better mileage.
Well, the General Motors executives' money stays in this country. The Nissan executives' money goes to Japan. I want to see Americans prosper.
So you're rooting more for the executives in another state than all the workers in your own?
Well, I'm for American products. I was an American League fan back when Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris is around. I've always been American, and I'm staying American.
Okay, but my question was whether you're more inclined to support those Michigan jobs than the ones in your fine state.
Well, as I said, I'm for jobs in America, but I'm for American production and bringing jobs back to America, and I'm for American companies being successful.
So you like those guys in Michigan a little more?
I like Americans.
That's a good answer. Congressman, where do you stand on this whole tax cut debate? The president seemingly making it clear in that Indiana stop today that no compromise on extending the tax cuts for the wealthy, which means, I guess, at the rate things are going, at least in a lame duck session, these things are toast.
Well, what I hope will happen is we'll get to vote on the 98%. I think that's even that it contributes to the deficit, but not as much as the upper 2% included. That's an additional $700 billion over 10 years toward the deficit. And Neil, we've got to deal with the deficit, and that's going to deal with some tough decisions, not only on taxes but on spending, and I'm willing to make those tough decisions.
You know what's weird, though, Congressman? I love you dearly, and you're a great, frank guest, and you always answer the questions. But this zeal, not necessarily on your part, but on the part of your party for deficits all of a sudden, it's like me out of the blue discovering salad. Where did that come from?
No, I don't think so.
You know, I mean, you guys, but just a few months ago, my friend, your party passed 20 different so-called emergency measures that did not have to be paid for because they were labeled emergency measures, and they cost over $200 billion. No one said boo about whether this was paid for. Now, all of a sudden, you found religion or salad, whatever the metaphor may be. Now you care about it.
Well, I've always cared about the deficit, and I think John Tanner, who's one of my colleagues and good friends whose district abuts me, and many of the Blue Dogs talked about the deficit more than anybody else. Unfortunately, they were defeated independent of the fact that they were deficit reduction people. But the fact is, we do need to make some difficult decisions. I'm willing to make them, and I don't think the Simpson-Bowles recommendations or The bipartisan recommendations made this week should have been tossed out or tossed out by anybody summarily. I do think the 2% cuts for the richest. I think the Senate Republicans ought to be forced to filibuster on the floor, stand up there like Jimmy Stewart and filibuster into Christmas night, and tell the American public that they're going to keep 98% from getting a tax break because they're concerned about the wealthiest people in this country who economists will tell you
that's
their
be the
spending does not stimulate the economy as much.
Congressman, thank you. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Same to you, Neil. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, well, what if